previous episodes of World of Enigmas, we had set out on several expeditions to try to find evidence or clues on the existence of Bigfoot. But after several attempts that yielded little to no evidence, we decided to take a little break to do more research. After a couple months of research, we decided to head back to the Green Swamp Wildlife Preserve to see if we can find any evidence to the activity that had been reported.
Some of you may remember from our first Sasquatch expedition in Central Florida, we visited the Green Swamp Preserve, and we also looked at Colt Creek State Park, which borders the preserve. And during that investigation, the most tantalizing evidence we found was a fallen tree that we could not explain having gotten its position by natural means. So we are back out here between the Colt Creek State Park and the Green Swamp Forest Preserve to see what else we can find. This is a hotbed of Sasquatch activity. There's a very prestigious organization called the Mid-Florida Bigfoot Research Group. Find them on Facebook. They have a team of investigators with tons of experience. They're out in this area all the time, and they find lots of compelling evidence, and we're out to look for some of that evidence. Now, some of the biggest evidence you find for Sasquatch investigations, of course you want footprints, of course you want pictures and sightings, but something else you always want to look for are what are called stick structures or forest markers. It's believed that the Sasquatch will mark their territory and essentially make what are road signs for themselves and each other in the woods with the trees. Now, we were passing by this area and I noticed a lot of areas that looked like they could have been done by a primate deliberately, let's say. Now, if you find a fallen or broken tree or limb in the woods, there are a lot of natural explanations for that. It could have rotten and just fell apart from gravity. A storm could have knocked it over. Another tree could have fallen over and knocked a healthy tree down and landed on top of it. Sometimes the wind will weave trees together when they rock back and forth in the wind, and it looks like someone did it deliberately when it's just the wind. There are lots of things that you want to keep in mind when you're looking for evidence. Basically, you want to try to debunk and find a natural explanation for anything you see. This area had some interesting stuff, and I wanted to have a look around. Back here, you see some fallen trees and limbs, and they're kind of together. I had a look at that. It looks pretty natural. It looks like it just rotted trees, wind, storm, natural causes caused all of that. Same with these fallen limbs here. You want to look for something that couldn't have happened by normal means. And I'm going to have a look around. You can see a lot of fallen trees. You can see a lot of bent over trees. Now that can be deliberate, or in this case, you can see these are very tall, thin trees. And what happens with these, and I don't know what they're called, but Florida has them everywhere. They get heavy, they get tall, they're skinny, they get heavy, and gravity makes them bend over. So it looks like an arched shape, and it looks like it could have been done deliberately, but it's just gravity and Mother Nature doing their job. So I'm going to look around. Okay, I've just spotted something interesting. Let me figure out how to get to it. Follow me this way. Okay, it's right over here. You see these trees that are kind of together, kind of looks like little pyramid shape. Now, you want to ask yourself, did these trees grow together? Did they get bent over in the wind? Is one or more broken limb or something like that? But here's what drew my attention. This is cool. Okay, this right here, still in the ground, and has grown up, and it looks like it quite naturally has grown through between, I don't know if you can see me rocking this or not, between these two trees, and it just grew in that direction and sprouted leaves over on that side. So it looks kind of weird, but perfectly natural. But look at this over here. First of all, what's different about this? All the bark has been stripped off of here. Nothing else. Now bears do that, we know that. And if you look, come around here. Well, there might be some on that side too. No, I don't see any, but come over here. You'll see what look like claw marks. Looks very much like a claw, like whatever was pulling this bark off. One, for sure, maybe two, maybe even a possible third there. Claw marks. So, and this is here. I don't really see any on the other side. But something, I mean, if the bark fell off naturally because the tree was diseased or whatever, wouldn't it all be gone? Why is it just stripped from here down? The other thing I'm looking at, look at the base of this. Move this stuff. Okay, you've got, here's a piece of bark. Right here, this moves. Here's a root system that looks pretty rotted. And if I turn this a little bit, is this the root? Is this tree from this root? Were these connected and then it broke off? Maybe, I don't know. It looks like it could be, but if it broke off in this direction, did this really fall perfectly between these two things? If it was that tall, say this was standing right here and it was rooted in the ground and it broke off, it rotted, whatever, and it fell, would it not have gotten caught up between this tree and that bent over tree that has grown this way, the one we first looked at? You see what I mean? Wouldn't this be on top of that, or wouldn't that at least be under this? But no, this is underneath this. So that tells me that tree grew up that way after this fell this way. So did whatever stripped the bark off of here and leave these claw-looking marks break this off and put this through there deliberately? This doesn't look natural to me. That's my point. Watch my step here. There's plenty of space out here.
Yeah, I found this. This,
That's interesting.
you see this? Almost looks like if somebody was playing Limbo over here. Now look at this. You were talking about that splintering effect, right?
Yeah.
So here's this tree that's all chewed up, possibly termites over time.
Yeah.
But look at this right here. This isn't a natural break. This is a push break.
Yeah, that's not rotten. Something knocked it over.
Well,
and
it's old. It's rotten now, but this is a
Yeah.
push break. But then look at this.
This branch that's on top of it.
This branch sits loosely.
Yeah.
There's no
I can move this with a finger.
There's no end. Someone put this branch on top of
that.
this tree, and also look at this tree over here.
Yeah.
This tree over here looks like it was pushed over at some point too.
Pulled down. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not tall enough, and it's heavy enough at the base that it didn't fall up in that direction under its own weight.
Now, if
Something
I back up,
pulled
look
it
at
that
the
way.
look at it. It almost has like this kind of like a
There's
like
a marker.
a fence marker type.
Yeah. You're
So
navigating your way through the forest.
so could you
Okay.
say we possibly just found a stick structure,
Well, marker for sure.
a marker? Yeah. And look where we are. We're like
Because it doesn't look like it fell.
in the woods. It's like you wouldn't expect people to come out here and play Limbo. I mean, how far did we drive in when we came in to the preserve?
A couple of miles.
So we're several miles into the preserve. This is all we see,
From a great height.
and then there's the road. And then as you can see, it's just thicket and trees all the way in there. And then bam, we've got this and the other structure that we just looked at
Which is,
pretty
100
close
feet away, maybe?
to the same area.
Here's another thing. If this fell from a greater height and landed this way, wouldn't this have snapped on impact if it fell from that height? Because this stuff,
Only if it was brittle enough.
I mean,
Yeah.
honestly,
All right,
this would have
Let's-
broken when it hit that, I think.
let's go
So
keep.
I think it was placed there carefully.
Okay, let's keep looking.
That's two.
Okay, hold on. Let me see what you found first, because I know where mine's is marked.
About the time, like out of a bad movie, about the time you said the word Prince, look at this.
Holy crap! What am I looking at here?
Keep your camera on it. That's what, 18, 19 inches, and at its widest, about 9.
All right, give me a reason for our audience why you would think this is a print. That almost looks like a toe, man.
That's what I'm saying. When you see an indentation or a mark in the ground, it could be a
But this
boot.
looks old. Look,
It
it's
could-
covered up.
That's what I'm saying. It could be a tire from a Jeep or an off-road vehicle from a park ranger. It could be a horse's hoof that's been degraded.
There's another hole.
There's a mark. Yeah, and I didn't see much there. That's kind of too indefinite.
Really?
to
That's-
verify that it's anything. But when you see these marks in the ground, they could be left by any number of things. It could be like 4 or 5 people walking through and stepping on each other's print and making what looks like a
Maybe.
big one single print.
But look
But-
at this earth right here is mushed up.
When you see
That
something,
means it looks like it could have been pushed off by something.
when you see something that looks like toes,
Well, this right here, those look like, that looks like a middle toe there. Those look like 3 small toes.
I mean, you're not going to find.
But I don't.
It's rare.
I can't tell if this is a footprint. So what makes you believe this could possibly be one?
You don't think it could possibly be a footprint? I mean, it could possibly be something else too, but you're not going to find in the wild, at least I would think rarely, a perfectly defined footprint with toes and, you know, the lines in the skin and everything else. You're not going to find perfect footprints like you would if you took your sandal off at the beach and put your foot in the sand and you can see each of your toes clearly. you're going to find something that was made while something was moving through, and since then, rain and time and falling leaves and sticks and critters, other things that are going to go through and alter that. Sometimes you'll see marks this big that look like giant footprints, and it's just a normal person's shoe print that has degraded over time. That happens. But I always look for some sign of toes. And this looks like we could have toes here. It's in the general shape of a foot. You have a heel, and you have what they call a kind of a splayed toe appearance. You know, the human foot is fairly straightforward. Big footprints, sometimes you will see toes that are kind of splayed out. They're more spread out, or even a toe that's a big toe that's kind of on the side a little bit, almost more ape-like. I say this is worth carefully pulling these twigs and sticks out of here and leaves and casting it. Because another thing besides the shape and what appear to possibly be toes, look how deep in the mud this is. This was not made by a large dog. Whatever stepped it, if this is a print, whatever made it, I think,
Has to be big.
was heavy. I don't think, you know, I'm 240 pounds. I think if I stepped in some corresponding mud or even jumped on it, I wouldn't make a print that deep. So this is, to me, an excellent candidate for casting and having a closer look at. And this is, what are we, maybe 150 feet, yards
About
from
100 feet in, yeah.
from the stick markers and structures we've already found.
We're not even that far, yeah.
This is a clearing area not too far off the road,
We're about 100 feet from the road.
but invisible. You can't see the road.
And we
from
were
our
40
position.
feet, so that means we're about another 60, 65 feet from the last stick structures that kind of generate a line to the road.
I think this is World of Enigma first. I think we have our first possible
Well,
Sasquatch
I also
footprint.
want you to come check this out right here. Look.
Okay, let's.
So not even far from that print.
Okay, you know that's there.
I banged my knee up, man.
I'm
They
sorry
tw-
to hear that.
Twisted it a little bit.
Just of size,
No.
though.
But look at this. Look at this right here.
Oh yeah.
Look, but this isn't even the weirdest thing. Okay, so we got all this fallen over, pushed over.
Yeah.
Could it be natural? Maybe, possibly.
Okay. Yeah. Look at the top of this, and look at all the divots in it. Let's say that breaks off. Wind, rot, whatever.
But there's
it
no-
falls. Here's the base of it. Also got similar holes, and it falls this way and hits here,
But look at,
and this breaks off of it and lands here.
you don't understand. Look at this.
No, I'm saying that part
This-
of it is explicable.
Then where is the rest of this piece?
This is just a tree.
No.
This
This.
part,
Look at it.
maybe it was a branch off of this. Is there a space where that could be? I don't see one. Could it be?
Look. It's not even based in. It's just sitting here separately.
They can't. This is much bigger at the base than this.
Exactly.
So this did not come from this.
This one looks like it came from this one, but why is it over here? And then this one is hanging on with the vines here. Now, I'm saying this could be natural, right? Maybe, maybe not. But then come check this out. We come in here. We come in here. Now, you remember that whole limbo thing? Come check this out.
Okay. Here we go again.
Look at this thing. Look at this thing. Look at woven in to a base
Placed there carefully.
that doesn't even match any of the trees around it.
No, and it's placed there delicately. If this heavy branch fell from a distance on top of this, it would have slipped right off and fallen to the ground.
So we have
It
this.
wouldn't-
We have the same type of marker we found right by the road. Again,
Yeah, this is all within
So I have a
well
fee-
within a quarter-mile area.
yeah.
This is a hot spot right here. Well spotted. Good job.
So we have two possible. So we have two possible stick structures in the by the road, plus this third one, plus a print just by this one. I'm gonna go further in to see what else.
Yeah, these are.
All right, guys, check this out. So there's that limbo style stick structure that we were talking about earlier. That's about, what'd you say, Steve? About 40 feet from the road?
Yeah.
So the road is about 40 feet from there. Then we found that other possible stick structure that we followed you. And if all I did was come down this clearing right here that you see, and there was that one by the street, then this one. And now, as we progress even further, Steve, show them what you found. So we found this fallen over tree. We thought, okay, we found all this broken stuff, could be natural, no problem. And then we saw it leaned up against this tree, no rooting, and so
we're thinking this is a tree that grew out of the ground at an angle,
right,
and came to rest in between the
trees
tree.
until he did this. Boom. Let's look, Steve.
There.
Is there any rooting?
No roots at all. That is
straight dirt.
Pretty deep hole.
Straight dirt.
And
then if we keep following the path,
there's some bark stripped away here too.
If we keep following the path, you find our footprint.
Yeah, our footprint.
And you find the two other structures that follow in almost a direct line.
Yes. Everything we have shown you so far is well within, I'd say, a quarter of a mile square area. Wouldn't you agree?
And each thing that we find is approximately, what'd you say, about 25 feet apart? So it's like almost 25,
25 to 50 feet apart. Yeah, I mean, it's this whole area, everywhere we look, we find something.
And it's almost in a direct line going that way.
Unless someone's out here trying to fabricate Bigfoot evidence, and they've been doing it for a long, long time.
So that's where the sun is. So that's west.
This is a compelling
going
area.
West. Going west. This path is going directly west from the road. Now, could it be they're traveling this way? Maybe. How about we go back to the road and check the other side real quick, and then we could see if that path is a traveled path going west or east.
There's enough flat area around here to where if there was a group of you and you wanted to bed down somewhere for the night near the road, this is where you'd go. If I was stuck out here for the night and had to camp out, I would stay here.
How do we know that there's no like nesting area? I have a feeling these are just markings. So here's the road.
Could be. Maybe this is a gathering area.
Well, let's check the other side real quick.
Speculate all day. There's points. But I mean, here's the road.
That's clearly all markings, dude. And it's just like every few feet. And then we look down in both ways of the other clearing, and we did not see anything except for that straight line, one after another after another. What?
Hang on, spider web. So we didn't come through this way. Let me get a stick and get rid of this really gigantic looking spider.
All right. There you go.
Bye.
All right, let's check. Go directly across the street. Let's see if we find anything. If we don't find anything, I'd say within 20 feet.
And there's the entrance to the park.
There's a little ways down that way.
Yeah, but I mean, it's a left that way. There's the porta potties. I mean, we're not
well, that's
far.
the campers area.
Yeah.
And then what? Maybe a mile and a half after that, that's where the entrance is.
Maybe, yeah. The point is, I mean, if you're out here, you can smell it and hear campers cooking and talking and whatever, and you want to check out their garbage at 4 a.m. for something to snack on.
Okay.
You're so close.
This is pretty thick. This doesn't look traveled or moved through. But let's go right here. Here's a high area. Here's looks something. All right, let's move this way. Yeah, this.
Do you want me to get started on the cast before we do that?
Yeah, go ahead. I'm just gonna look a little bit to see if I can find anything that matches what we're finding on the other side. Then maybe we can tell like which direction they could possibly be traveling, if anything is.
Good thinking.
Oh, that's swamp. I ain't going through that. Yeah, that's. I'm not going in there. That is straight swamp. And it's really thick, dude. And this would be a direct line straight from the other ones. I'm not seeing a path. I see a hole. I'm getting the hell out of here. All right, now that's swamp behind us, and I don't know what's back there, so I'm not gonna risk it. That's a water hole. That's a water hole. It looks like there's a burrow there, a really big one. So I don't know what could be back there. Let's not disturb what could be back there. Probably not a wise choice. All right. Nope. I'm sorry. I'm gonna did you see anything over here?
No, but I didn't really look. I was just.
This is very thick. All this area over here is just thicket, man.
Well,
thicket, and then it dips down into like a swampy, wet.
thicket and
And
swamp.
then there's like a big burrow there.
So if you had to stay out here permanently, you'd stay on that side.
I go
wouldn't you?
west.
Right where we found everything.
Yep. But it's only in a straight line. There's nothing else.
Okay. Casts take a while to set.
Okay.
I'm gonna.
All right. Yep. Go ahead and set your cast. All right, man. So I see you brought your plaster stuff. You want to explain to the folks at home
I've
how you're gonna do this process?
yeah, I've only done this once before, but as the test, I removed all the sticks and twigs and leaves and as much as possible without damaging the integrity of what we believe to be a footprint. So now I'm ready to make a cast. The best material to use to make these casts is actually dental plaster, what your dentists use to make impressions and molds of your teeth. That's the best quality stuff to use. It's also a little expensive, and as you've noticed, this show is on YouTube, not NBC, so our budget is this big. So what I've got from either Lowe's, Home Depot, any place like that you want to go, I've got some regular old like plaster mortar that you use for home improvement projects. And I'm going to mix it in the bag. I just dumped some. I've got several bags, hoping we find, 20 prints. And I'm going to mix it with water in the bag. When I get a good consistency, you don't want it too dry, you don't want it too wet. I'm going to fill this and let it sit. In these conditions, it's fairly dry and fairly warm, should set in about an hour. If it's really humid or really damp, it's going to be a lot harder. Luckily, this appears to be a pretty dry print. Hopefully then, after that's done, we don't take it out too soon because it'll fall apart. We will be able to lift this carefully out of the ground without breaking it and take home our very first plaster cast of a possible Sasquatch print. So I'm going to do this and hope for the best.
All right,
Let's
man.
hope we get this done.
I'll let you do your thing.
By the way, folks, if you're out squatching and you have bags of white powder in your backpack and you get stopped by a park ranger or anyone else, make sure you have a credible story as to what this is. Explain you're looking for Bigfoot, it's plaster, and I took a picture of the bag.
Well, you
so I
could
show them
always
that.
roll with it and see how far it goes.
I could have brought the whole bag and left it in the car, but I decided to risk it. So
Oh, good stuff.
I'm going to get to mixing, and while this sets, we will keep exploring this area.
All right,
It
yeah.
appears to be full of Bigfoot activity.
All right, guys. I just got back from traveling down this way over here through this thicket. It stormed within the last couple days, so it gets pretty nasty and swampy and wet back there. I didn't want to risk it. There's no point in taking major risk and injuring yourself when you come back another day and check things out. What do you say, Steve?
I say safety first. There's no point making the discovery of the century if you're too dead to tell anybody about it.
Absolutely. All right, man. So how'd that plaster come
Well,
out?
it's my second, so don't judge me too harshly, you experts out there.
Holy crap!
I
that
used
thing's
my fingers,
huge.
as you can tell, to smooth it out. I only brought 4 bags of plaster. I thought that would be enough to cast 2 footprints. I was
Yeah.
clearly way wrong. All
You can-
4 bags were barely enough to put in this one.
But you can definitely see now the definition. There's
Well-
the curvature of the inside of the foot. There's the curvature of the outside of the foot. But look at the side. Look at here. Look, guys.
Yeah,
So
well-
that way you can tell.
well-
So here's my heel. There's that heel. Look at the size of this print we were looking at in the dirt. That was harder to see.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at 10 inches wide and 20 inches, 21 inches maybe. Now, I think I've got the mixture right as far as not being too wet or too dry. But we'll see. It's going to be front heavy. So once this sets and we try to lift it out, if we're very careful and very lucky, this will come out in one piece and not just break into a bunch of gravel in our hands.
We just
in an
gotta wait
hour
for
or
it to
so.
dry. How long is it gonna take? About
About an hour.
an hour.
We will hope that this works, but even if this falls apart into clay, we have photographic evidence of what appears to be a very likely Sasquatch print in an area that's reported to be rife with activity and in an area where we have found all these different markers and structures with the branches and trees. So this is a great find, I think, and we'll see what it looks like. It doesn't really matter what it looks like on top. It matters what it looks like when we take it out, clear the dirt away, and flip it over and see if we have impressions of toes. So we'll see what happens. And this is the cast of the Bigfoot print that Josh and I found in the Green Swamp Wilderness Preserve recently. I brought it home and I've been trying to clean it up with partial success. Due to the poor quality of the plaster, to be honest, that we used, and in addition the small amount of it, we weren't able to fill the entire footprint, just the bottom of it, to get about an impression of it. This is very thin, and as I've been trying to clean it up and get the mud off of it so that we can get a better look at it, bits and pieces of it keep breaking off. And this piece right here came off when we were extracting it from the ground, and I saved it, but as you can see, some of the filler was lost in there. This is very thin, but while it's a poor quality Bigfoot cast, or cast of a possible Bigfoot print, it is a large one. It is about 20 inches by, at its widest, about 9 inches. Now, how much of this is actual foot and how much is just surrounding area? Again, it was a very deep impression, especially in the front part of the foot, and you'll see that in the video. So I tried to put as much plaster as I could in there, and there was less plaster when I got to the rear of the print, which is why it's so thin here and probably why this piece broke off. In addition, the footprint was resting on top of a very large rock, and when we cast, the rock was buried in the ground. It was immovable, and when we put the cast in, the plaster, and let it harden, and when we tried to remove it, it was literally stuck to that rock, and that made things very difficult and assisted in that piece coming off. But it is fairly deep. As you can see, it's less deep. I apologize for the poor quality of this video. I'm doing this on my phone, in the rear, and much deeper forward. Whatever stepped in that mud made a very deep impression. This wasn't a case of a print that was made and then degraded over time with weathering, although it is an old print. This looks to me like something very large came along and stepped there and was very heavy. I'm about 250, and I couldn't make nearly the impression in the mud in the surrounding area that this thing made.